evening. Call to order the City of Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 14th, 2018. We have the roll call, please.
Atkins. Here. Hartley.
Here.
Giarusso.
Here.
Hulse.
Here.
Oberly.
Here.
Leeper.
Here.
Wingert.
Here.
Saul. Ardson.
Thank you. Next, we'll have approval of the minutes, and this is, note, this is for both the October 10th due to a chair error and our last meeting on October 24th.
You're forgiven.
Do we need separate motions for each of those, maybe?
Yes, please.
Okay, if we could do the October 10th, please, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of approval of the October 10th minutes signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Our October 24th commission minutes, is there approval of those minutes, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. 2 sets of minutes approved. At this point, we'll invite any general public comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to our first agenda item. We have one item of old business this evening. This is the Park Ridge Estates preliminary plat. If we could have staff introduce this item for us.
Thank you, Mrs. Overly. Just want to bring this preliminary plat back to commission here for Park Ridge Estates at the north end of Lakeshore Drive. We introduced this back in September, and since then the developer and the engineer kind of been meeting with adjacent property owners and doing up a new design for the plat itself and the stormwater runoff and detention areas for the 20-acre parcel. So again, it's at the north end of Lakeshore Drive. As part of this, we did started a rezoning of that property from A1 to R1 residential, and that's kind of tracking through council right now. The third reading is scheduled kind of in time with the preliminary plat as that goes to council. So we're kind of timing those at the same time at that level. So just moving along here, again, this is kind of more of a close-up version of that area up there. As you can see, the north and east area, approximately 9 acres of that is in the floodplain. Along with that, there's significant tree stands and some steep slopes in those ravines. Again, the streams on the west and heading to the Cedar River to the north. As part of this, they're going to maintain those areas, those sensitive areas, and kind of stay out of that as those lots developed. And again, we do, as part of the preliminary plat, is review those grading areas, make sure the stormwater detention and runoff meets our current standards in their subdivision ordinance. So this is the plat itself. Had it rotated here, so north is basically there on the right side. Again, this is 6 residential lots outlined in red, and then the outlots are outlined in blue. So looking at outlot A, that's going to go to the adjacent property owner, and the remaining outlots B through F, and then B through F are going to be held into sensitive areas. Those again are the steep slopes and the floodplains, and that'll be called out in a riparian easement. So that easement will be attached to the deed of dedication as the final plat. We'll see that during the final plat process here down the road. So basically those areas are just roughly 9 acres of land here out of the 20, and then outlots 1 and 2, which is part of the stormwater detention requirements as we were looking at designing this. So these are kind of existing conditions, and these are some issues that we kind of been working with the property owners here. Again, we introduced this last September 12th. We met on site with those property owners here right after that. I think it was September 17th. That was the city staff and the engineer, along with a lot of neighbors there along Lakeshore Drive and on the east side of the lake also. But basically, as existing conditions, there's a lot of stormwater ponding areas in the intersection of Lilliput and Lakeshore Drive, and that's located at the very southern end of the map here. I'm not going to put my mouse on it, but it's right down here. I don't know if you can see that. But that collects really kind of the existing runoff from the west and the south that kind of travels up through the subdivision, existing subdivisions. And that area is kind of in a sump location, so that means the intersection's low. So that kind of ponds up in those high events, high rain events, and eventually it enters the storm sewer and heads north two ways. First, it goes through the storm sewer, which is existing line that goes off the end of Lakeshore Drive, and it heads diagonally northeast into the ravine there, just north of the dam, as you can see at the end of the lake. The other way it does, it just basically fills up and just goes kind of the natural way as it enters, exits the street and kind of just meanders through the north side of that last house there and down into the ravine there. And part of those photos, again, these were taken by one of the neighbors. As you can see, the bottom left photo, you can see the outlet to the dam there. And then these were also attached in your staff report. There's a lot of damage or repair needs for that spillway. It's kind of separating from the end of that pipe. And then the storm sewer pipe is just adjacent to this. So one of the neighbors' concerns is trying to get those areas separated so it doesn't have creating an additional washout for the dam structure and the spillway for the dams and avoiding some erosion areas. The overland runoff just kind of goes north of that existing storm sewer pipe, and as you can see, it's starting to create a pretty good erosion gully there. So again, as these were kind of their concerns, the staff looked at that, the engineer looked at that, and wanted to make some changes in their plat, so that's what they've been doing the last couple months. So again, here's the existing conditions of the proposed plat. First part here is, again, the water kind of runs down Lilliput and then from the west, and again, it ponds in that intersection, and everything kind of drains to the, from the west to the east. And so the plan is, for this, is to extend that existing storm sewer pipe up to the north side of Outlot B. So we want to take away that overland route and then this existing storm sewer, so that area will be abandoned, and created a new pipe north of that Outlot B, and then at that point there's going to be another sump location in the street. That will allow basically part of the 100-year event, 1/3 of that water will be in the pipe, and then it will travel east down that swale into the Outlot B, which is one of the detention basins. Another 1/3 of the water will, again, pond and then over top a low drop curb, so to speak, and travel down a ditch. It's a fairly shallow ditch. It's a mobile ditch, but they'll have some check dams in there for water speed to control the velocity of that water. So 1/3 of that water will head down there and then into that Outlot B, which is the detention basin, and that's designed for the 100-year event, and that will be released into the stream at the 2-year rate, which is part of our code requirements. The rest of the runoff from lots 1, 2, and 3 will again head towards that eastern detention basin. And then the final 1/3 will head north to the cul-de-sac into the next detention basin, which is the northern detention basin. Kind of same function there. It'll run through the end of the cul-de-sac into the basin. That will hold that and release those areas. So that will collect all the runoff from the west side. I should make a note there, if I back up one. There is a new area along the south side of this, lot 6, which will be collected and conveyed into just a trench there, so to speak, or overland swale that will catch all that water that's currently running into that Lakewood Estates, and that'll run down to the street and into those basins, as I mentioned. So with that, we would like to move this to recommend approval of this and move this to City Council based on our recommendations and any comments and directions that the Planning and Zoning Commission may have.
Thank you. We'll follow our standard process, and at this point, invite an applicant to speak to the commission. Is there?
I'd like to note that I'll abstain from this project.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Hello, Adam Daters with Clapp Sauter Garber Associates Engineers. We are the engineering firm working with the developer on this project. Staff and David did a great job of really explaining the design and the modifications we made to our original design we brought forward to you. we spent some time talking with the adjacent property owners. We really think we've come up with a design that and I'm sure they'll speak to some additional concerns, but we're taking the runoff, we're getting it away from the toe of that dam, really improving the condition of the toe of that dam right there. There are some stormwater issues on their property that we can't fix because we're downstream. We're not making them any worse. We're conveying as much as we can. And like I said, through a couple meetings with staff and also with the property owners, we feel we've come up with a very, very viable design for this development. And we're just here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Any questions for him at this point?
At this point, thank you.
Good, thanks.
We will invite any public comment at this time. If you'd like to address the commission, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening, I'm Jim Hancock, and I am a resident of the area just south of the Park Ridge Estates at Lakewood Hills Edition. First of all, I'm speaking for myself, but first I would like to compliment and recognize that Mr. Wingert and CGA Associates have done a nice job with this project, and especially addressing our concerns. They've been very accessible and responsive to our questions and willing to listen and make suggestions and discussing and again viewing the area that was damaged that we've been most concerned about and responding to those concerns with the comments that have been made just before I was up here. The stormwater management changes that have been listed there, I'm convinced will have a significant impact and a significant improvement from what we originally were looking at and would benefit the development as well as the housing community around it. And I know that several of us in the Lakewood Hills area are willing to assist with the removal of the trees, which was one item that was listed that really wasn't addressed, but we will be addressing to get that compliance as well. Secondly, this is not a developer's issue, but I would like to emphasize the finding that has been mentioned, that is that the Lakeshore Drive existing sewer system is inadequate in the area where Lily Pool meets up with Lakeshore Drive, and that was confirmed by also our associate, Steve Jones, who is here with us, but he had done some mapping and is an expert in that area as well, and we are concerned about the amount of inadequacy of the sewer system in the existing area of Lakeshore Drive. Perhaps that was missed when Lily Addition was put in, or for whatever reason, it's still far beyond even the 5-year regulations for 5-year flood. I know the city's aware of this, and I know that they're working towards resolution for that, but I would just like to formally request that that be added to the budgeting plans for the city, that work would be done in that area to accommodate that problem, especially since some of those changes that are being or that are requested would be helpful so that there wouldn't be tear out and removal of existing new development work that was being done with the development of Park Ridge Estates. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the commission on this item?
My name is Tammy Stahl. I live at 1009 Lakeshore Drive, and last city council meeting that I attended, it was a few weeks ago, I publicly criticized the developer, Brian Wingert, and I feel that I took out my frustrations with the city and water issues that we were having, and felt that we weren't being listened to about, and I feel like I had harsh words for Mr. Wingert, and I would like to apologize for that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
other comments? Any other comments from our applicant? Any questions from the applicant or the staff from commission?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the opportunity for everyone to work together. I know there were some real concerns, and I appreciate everyone voicing those concerns, and I appreciate the development group sincerely listening to those and addressing those. So thank you.
I would like to agree with that as well. The property owners have been very good to work with through this whole process. And you know, once we were able to sit down and meet and really detail through the concerns that we could address and we could help them with, I think we were able to all arrive at the same page. So it was a very positive experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like you addressed all the water issues that are the big issue there, and kind of difficult in some ways, and looks like you did a good job of resolving all that with the city, and so I would make a motion to approve.
I would second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please go ahead and vote. We have 6 ayes and 1 abstention, so that item is approved, and we'll move on to City Council. Now move on to several new business items, the first of which is our Central Business District Overlay Design Review for Lark Brewing. And if we could have the staff introduction on this item, please.
Thank you. So 312 Main Street is currently in the process of being renovated for its new tenant, Lark Brewing. Part of this project includes some interior renovations and also the addition of an overhead door to the back of the building that will be along the alley. The property is located in the Central Business District, and the addition of an opening in a building does trigger the review of a design review, as it's considered a substantial improvement. So here's an image of what the site currently looks like and what is being proposed. The proposed overhead door that will be again on the back of the building will be used for for bringing in brewery equipment, as well as for daily delivery and shipping of product. The review of a substantial improvement does require, again, multiple reviews of different design items, and staff in their staff report evaluated those in a lot of detail. So what I'll do is I'll kind of hit on the major highlights again in the staff report. It goes into a little bit more detail on those items. So the items in red shown here are the ones that are triggered in this review by this type of improvement. And what they're proposing to do is add a metal overhead door that's about 6 feet wide and 7 feet tall. This type of door supports the business operations and is typical for commercial buildings in general. The opening will face the alley and currently has no distinct pattern of solid surfaces or openings. The addition of this door will create an additional visual break in the building's rear and add an element of transparency to an area where one didn't exist before. The door will include 2 glass light kits shown there in the image. The door itself will be white and will blend in with the existing white vinyl siding that's on the back of the building. And any vinyl siding that is damaged or needs to be cut out to install this will be replaced with like. So staff feels that all elements of the code's design review have been met by the proposed improvement and would like to recommend approval and moving this project forward to City Council.
Thank you. Is there an applicant present who'd like to speak to this item? Anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to the item? Any questions or discussion from commission?
Looks pretty straightforward to me. I'd move to approve.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please go ahead and vote. There's 7 ayes. That item is also approved, and we'll move on to City Council. Next agenda item, also an overlay design review this time for the College Hill neighborhood. College Hill neighborhood overlay design review for Icon Donut. And Ms. Lehman, if you would tell us about this one also, please.
Thank you. So this property, 917 West 23rd Street, is also currently being remodeled for a new tenant, Icon Donuts. And the project includes interior renovations as well as new signage. So that includes a projecting sign and awnings. The property, as the chair noted, is located in the College Hill neighborhood overlay, and any major improvement to the exterior, including signage or any projections over the right-of-way, triggers review by Planning and Zoning and City Council as a substantial improvement. So if you remember, probably about earlier in the year, the other half, Suite B of this property, came through for awnings and a projecting sign. So what's being proposed is for the other half of the building. So here's an image showing the current storefront and what is being proposed. The projecting sign will be placed above the store's entrance under the existing greenhouse kitchen sign, and the sign will be elevated 13 feet above the sidewalk. It'll be about 11 square feet. So that exceeds both the sign size and placement requirements of the code. It meets those requirements, I apologize. The awnings will go on the east and south windows of the building and will extend about 18 inches over the right-of-way. In total, they're about 8 feet off of the sidewalk. The height and placement of these awnings are consistent for the other awnings on the building and awnings along the street on the College Hill. I'd like to make a note that the material that you see over the windows will be removed. These are just there to kind of cover the interior construction as it's ongoing. Staff feels that the proposal meets the requirements of the College Hill neighborhood overlay design criteria and would like to recommend approval and moving this project forward to City Council.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak to this item? Seeing none, Commission?
Looks like a fitting sign for the location. I'd make the motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please go ahead and vote. We have 7 ayes on that one also, so it is approved, and we'll move on to City Council. The last item of new business this evening is the Business Research District Site Plan Review for Rabo AgriFinance. Staff, the update on this one, please.
All right, so what we have before the Commission tonight is BR Business Research District Site Plan Review. This is located along Technology Parkway, east of Hudson Road and west of Chancellor Drive. It's about a 3-acre site, a little over a 3-acre site, and City Council actually just recently approved a development agreement with the property owner, 6 Kids LLC, in order to build this building. So this is the next step. The development agreement was approved, and now they're moving through the site plan review process and want to get started on this fairly soon. So what they're looking at doing is a little over 17,000 square foot single-story office building for Rabo AgriFinance. The property owner would build the building and own it and lease it to the company. So some elements with the site plan. Again, it's 3 acres, 1 main entrance off of Technology Parkway at the northwest corner of the site. The building is kind of tucked away at the south end of the property, and you can see the building just to the east is kind of similarly laid out with an entrance on that west side and the building kind of in the rear. That building actually to the east is owned by the same developer that's developing this as well, 6 Kids LLC. So again, you have a parking area in front of the building and some parking area to the west of the building. They're actually proposing 116 parking stalls. Based on the ordinance requirements for a professional office, they're only required to provide 53, but they're indicating that there's going to be approximately 90 employees, so they do want to have additional parking, so they are over-parking the site by quite a bit in anticipation just for the number of employees and visitors they may have. So again, and then in front of the parking lot, between the parking lot and Technology Parkway, they're showing a stormwater detention basin as well, and at that very west parking lot, at the very south end of the property is the trash enclosure, so that'll be way at the southwest corner of the property. Going through some of the building renderings, so this is again a single-story office. This is the front view of it, made with glass and precast paneling and what's also commonly referred to as Nichihas, kind of a fiber cement board system. So kind of a modern-looking building, single-story with a main entrance and a number of windows, and then looks like a skylight kind of thing over the middle of the building, which will provide some natural skylight into the middle of the office building. Again, looking at some of the elevations and some of the things that we review when we look at site plans, you're looking at, the building proportion. Again, it's only a single-story building. Many of the office buildings in this area are single-story as well. It does have a flat roof system, which again, most of the other buildings in this area have, so it is compatible with some of the surrounding buildings. Looking at its pattern, the building pattern, again, it's got the front of the building has a lot of windows on it with some of that precast paneling that extends up to the roof line, and then some of that with that Nichiha paneling as well. So it provides a good pattern, which gives it an inviting appearance from the front. Again, looking at the materials of the building, a lot of the materials in this area use stone or brick or precast panels, concrete panels. Again, this is using similar precast panels and then using that Nichiha element as well. In total, you're looking at the front of the building is made up of approximately 42% of glass, so it is a pretty prominent feature on the front of the building. And then again, using the Nichiha paneling is about 30%, and then the precast panels at about 20%. So again, then the bottom image is the rear. Again, there's not as many windows, but there's windows in the back as well. Same materials again with the precast paneling and the Nichiha as well. And then looking at the side elevations, again, more similar as to the other sides of the building, where there's a good mix of windows and well distributed along the sides of the building, along with some precast panels and Nichiha as well. The color of the building kind of looks like it's called Gunsmoke. It looks like it's a darker gray or maybe even a darker blue with some orange. The Rabo color has a little bit of orange to it, so they're proposing that as an accent color. Again, this is fairly similar with some of the office buildings in this area. A lot of the office buildings use more of neutral colors, browns, tans. The building actually just to the east is a darker gray as well. So staff feels that the design of the building matches relatively well with the surrounding buildings in the technology park. They submitted a landscaping plan. Things that we look at that are required for the landscaping is, are you providing street trees along the street? You're supposed to provide trees around the perimeter of the parking lot, and then you're supposed to have a required amount of open space. So the BR district requires 20% of the site being open space, and they're providing 49.9%, so they're well over their open space requirement. And again, when you're looking at landscaping points, that's when you're looking at point for the trees and for the shrubs. They're over their point requirement for that as well. Signage, they're proposing one monument sign right near the entrance at the northwest corner of the building. It's 32 square foot in area, and then it will be on a precast panel base, and those panels will be similar to what's found on the building, so the sign base will match what the design of the building is as well. And the signage requirements appear to meet the requirements of the ordinance as far as size goes. So staff would recommend approval of the site plan. I know the P&Z Commission generally likes to review site plans in 2 different meetings. I think staff's analysis of this site plan, there was very minor issues with that came from our tech committee that the applicant was able to address fairly quickly. And so the staff's recommendation would be to, if the P&Z Commission has no concerns, would be to recommend approval and send this on to council. The applicant would like to get started on this this fall yet if possible. So if this can move through, they would be appreciative of that. But again, if there's comments from the commission that we would like to see come back, we'll certainly do that.
Thank you. The applicant like to make any comments to the commission?
Good evening, Commission. Dan Levi, Architecture, 1009 Technology Parkway. Project's fairly straightforward in the concept, similar to the project next door that 6 Kids did before, a little bit different look, obviously. Then that building And we are asking if it suits the commission that this project be moved on to City Council. We had planned to submit this quite earlier, but dealing with a national tenant, they have certain hoops to jump through, and things did not go as quickly as everyone had planned. We did review with tech review and staff to clarify any questions they had. There were none from engineering as well. We received that letter earlier this week. So we're at this point just really asking if the commission would consider moving it on rather than seeing it a second time unless there are significant issues to be addressed.
Anyone else like to speak to this item? Discussions, questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff?
It looks pretty straightforward, like you said. Open spaces hit, they're over landscaping. Building looks good.
Yeah, landscaping, more parking than is required. Looks like a nice looking building on top of it with some neat features. Does match the other buildings in the area. I agree with Shane's assessment there.
I would move that we approve and move on to council.
Second.
Yep.
We have a motion to approve and several seconds. Please go ahead and please for your vote.
Brian, there you go.
And we have all eyes on that item also, so that is approved and we'll move on to council. Thank you. That concludes our new business items. At this point, we will have commission updates, if there are any.
The only thing I would note is you got the new look of the agenda this time. I don't know if you've even noticed, but they were rolling out the new software. So you got it the same way you did before. The next time around, there'll be an email. I don't know if it's you've already received it. Just instructing, it's basically just uploading the PDF from the website, basically, and just saving it to your iPad. So if anybody has any questions, they can contact our IT coordinator on that. But we don't anticipate any problems, hopefully, cross your fingers. With technology, you never know, but it should be fairly straightforward.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. I will looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Those in favor of adjournment signify with aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Thank you. We are adjourned.